you do. You're fine.
Really
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our live cast, Spiritual Math, operating at your potential. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And welcome, Betty. How are you today?
I'm fine.
Excellent. All right. So let me just preface this by saying all existence is consciousness being conscious, called God, man, universe. Things are thoughts, ideas. The form soul manifests as consciousness. Your table, your horse, your chair are consciously identifying mind, your mind, as their life or existence, their substance and action, their soul, as it were. In the proportion that human beings live their lives with this fact, which means understands it, is the proportion, is that your life is a conscious proof of, your human living is a conscious proof of.
Read that sentence again.
In the proportion that the human being, you, lives this fact, which means understands it, you, the human being, are you, the human being, the conscious proof of it. I took the he away because it's not just for he's. All right. Should I say it again?
Nope. Keep going.
So
Margaret wrote it all, you know.
Right, I know. So why should it be thought phenomenal to be in one's office from one's home with no lapse of time and without the aid of train or motor car? Man is not a point in space, but is all embracing conscious awareness. Mind here includes all manifestation that seems to be there, since mind is all. All the human concessions which we may have to make are because of cloudy vision. And that's a quote from Laird, practice, not profession. And that's the pamphlet or the material that we're working with from Margaret Laird. And what I would say is, all the human concessions which we may have to make are because of cloudy vision. What creates that cloudy vision, Betty?
The belief that I'm the thing I'm looking at in the mirror.
Okay. So the belief that this is all there is to me and all of the world that I operate in is real.
Well, the pictures, I do operate in the world of reality, but the pictures in human living show up the best way that they can, given my belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So I make the world I walk through.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's showing up the best way that you can see them for what there is for you to discover.
I'm always operating at the height of my capacity at the moment.
Right.
Moment by moment by moment.
Okay. So when we talk about spiritual math, operating at your potential, what's the spiritual math?
The spiritual math is the distinction between one and the view of many. It's the understanding of infinity versus the myth of many.
And when you say myth of many, that means that I'm just out here, you're out here, we've got a whole crowd of people out here, they're all external to me. That's the view of many, or the belief of many?
Well, believing that there's anything outside of my consciousness in a dual world that does not exist.
Okay.
But as I am, because all that's present, I can.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you were in and out there. I'm not sure if that will pick up. Maybe it was just me on this side.
No, I saw it here too.
Okay. So you might want to repeat what you said.
Good idea. What did I just say?
Right. I don't know. Okay, so we'll move on. So operating at your potential if you're looking at spiritual math, or you're taking into this idea that one equal infinity, one infinite, abundant, all
all-encompassing,
encompassing, all inclusive.
inexhaustible.
Yep. So operating at your potential means you have access to that, the infinite.
It means there's no limit in any direction.
Yeah. Okay. Whereas operating at less than potential would be that you're buying into the fact that you're just one among many, that you're just a two-legged animal. Would that be
Yeah,
accurate?
and the way you put that was very good, because it really shows that you have consented to live at less than your potential. You call it buying into,
Right.
agreeing with what the view is.
Yeah.
All of that is living at less than your potential, because all is infinite mind, infinitely manifest right now, right now, right now, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's just action and moving forward, like with whatever. It's interesting. I can see it. When you think you're one among many, you have all kinds of beliefs and judgments and interpretations that cloud your vision, that cloud what it is you can see is even possible.
Yeah, and you can, even humanly speaking, what you called one among many is one looking variously, looking millions of ways, no limit. So there's another way to say that, you know?
Right. And there's a distinction in the living of it, right? Like if I live
Well, the only living of it is going on where you are. There's nothing else going on.
Exactly. But if I'm living it like I'm one among many and there's all this out there that I got to contend with and whatever, that's one way of living. If I'm living it as all my own being, showing up the best way, the only way I can see it, and now what? That's a very different living than living, oh dear, I got to navigate this dangerous world. Something's out to hurt me, whatever.
Yeah. And if I can live the infinity that is present when I show up, you know, when Betty shows up, what is present?
Yeah.
It's God being.
Yeah.
Infinitely present.
Yeah.
And if I can see that, why I'm not talking to somebody over there, I'm talking to myself, capital S, a divine self that has no limit, that looks like an over there in my language limitation.
Yeah.
But the reality is I am that.
Yeah.
Nothing comes up that doesn't have value every minute. So always when something occurs, look for the value.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be concerned about it or pick it apart or upset about it or any of that stuff. What you want to do is look for the value.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wonder why I grew that way right now. It's an attention getter. It's saying, Betty, wake up. Is that over there trying to give you a bad time or trying to make you think you're happy? When joy constitutes man, there's no question about, am I happy?
Right. You could also say, and making you think you're sad, when joy constitutes man. You're happy whether you know it or not.
I was just going to quote her. Margaret used to say that. You're happy whether you know it or not, because joy constitutes being.
Mm-hmm.
And when you show up, being is present.
Yeah.
The God idea, infinitely manifest, is what's going on.
Right.
And I see it the best way I can see it from moment to moment, which is why I don't want to hang on to any of it that I see. I want to hang on to the understanding that it's all reality.
Right.
Nothing can hurt me. Nothing can touch me. There's nothing separate from my consciousness. And when that is aware, consciously aware, I'm home free.
Yeah.
I can let it do anything it wants to do and say, right on we go.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool. All right, let's dive in here. In her book, Practice Not Profession, Margaret Laird on page 32 wrote, "The human language of the spiritual original is dependent upon individual spiritual vision."
Yep.
I know you just said yep, like, yep, very clear, but let's unpack that for me a little bit. So the human language of the spiritual original.
Yep.
What is the spiritual original?
God being.
God being. Why didn't they just say that? The human language of God being is dependent upon individual spiritual vision. So what does that mean? Individual spiritual vision.
That means I can only live it the way I am. If I see myself as an observer, a doer, a thinker, a planner, et cetera, with the ER on the end of it all, instead of the ING, the doing, the being, the planning. Margaret had a patient that came to her and said she was losing her voice, and she was a singer, and it made a big difference in her career. And Margaret says she didn't realize that there isn't any singer, there's only singing. And when you see that and you let go of your personal attachment to what that's all about, then the singing goes on with freedom and perfection and joy. And they had quite a wonderful experience of seeing her work that out. People came. Margaret said she had a friend that came and said, you know, we had a substitute singer at our church this week, and she was marvelous. She said, you just weren't even conscious that she was there. You were so listening and so one with the singing. It's that kind of living that makes a difference.
So the human language of the God idea is dependent upon your individual spiritual vision or your individual view of your living.
Yeah, and when it is upsetting to me or less than satisfying, I can't blame it on out there somewhere. I have to say, who are you being? That whatever comes up isn't absolutely right for the moment.
Right.
Given that reality is the only thing going on, why would I object?
Right.
Why would I fuss?
Right.
And being willing to leave that picture alone and hold the vision of one infinite, perfect presence, or presencing, which is a word I kind of use a lot.
Right.
It frees you from any attachment from a human point of view. And that freedom is what allows things to move, what allows things to blossom, what allows answers to problems, solutions to difficulties, appearances of healing when there is nothing to heal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Now, Margaret Laird, or Mary Baker Eddy, sorry, in Science and Health on page 269, starting on line 14, says it this way: metaphysics resolves things into thoughts and exchanges the objects of sense for the ideas of soul. And that's very much what we were just saying, is knowing, being clear about the divinity present when you show up.
Discernment of the spiritual facts.
Yeah.
That's what science gives you.
Yeah. And when you can live and practice, when you really practice that and live that, you really do have the experience of operating at your potential. Things that you don't even know are possible show up and you can see them.
Yep. In a language, always in a form you can understand.
Yeah.
And then the way you rob yourself is thinking that the form was the answer.
Right.
You got to be sharp these days.
And the other way you rob yourself is buying into your beliefs and your judgments and your evaluations about everything going on.
Yep.
Because that sucks you right into assigning cause to the picture.
Right.
And now you're no longer even able to operate at your true potential until you let that alone.
You've forgotten who you are.
Yeah,
That's all.
right. And that's what I've also heard called arguing for your limitations. Like, I
Yep.
can't do that. Well, because of this, I can't do that.
Yep.
I don't have the money for that. I don't have, all that stuff.
Yep.
Now, more discussion on this. Mrs. Eddy also wrote, but the pursuit of modern material inventions, we can't oppose them. They all tend to newer, finer, more etherealized ways of living. They seek the fine essences. They light the way.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's a quote from Mrs. Eddy.
And that just speaks to ongoing innovation, doesn't it?
Yep.
And that it's always developing, always innovating, always coming to view.
Every day is the world made new.
Yeah.
Every day is a new beginning.
Right. So there's no need to be an argument about any of the new things that are coming up. Just rather include them. Of course, these things are showing up.
Yeah. Because what's really occurring is no limitation in any direction.
Right. Yeah.
And it will show up as innovation and new invention and spontaneous living and so on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, in Mind as the Athlete on page 73, your book, Betty, you say, perception is reception, which pre-exists and generates all that is or seems to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, unaware, it isn't a process, for instance, that I put into practice. Because who I'm being is the process I'm walking through.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't like, now I've got to do this, then I've got to move over here and do this. It's that who I'm being operates that way, whatever way it is. And so I don't want to pay any attention to that. That isn't what determines what's present. Right. What determines what's present is way present long before you even give it a thought. Right. It's always been, and it's perfection. It's grounded in perfection. It's the God idea, self-recognizing. And the action of the God idea is all there is to man. Mm-hmm. So when I let Betty go and stay present to the infinite reality that is present, even though I don't see it that way, looks to me like I'm in the house or in the garden or mowing the lawn or whatever. Right. But what's actually present is reality. The only way I can see it this moment and this moment and this moment and this moment. So I can let go of the routine called Betty doing her thing. Yeah. And see that everything is exactly right, absolutely perfect, and have everything that's needed or could ever be needed every moment as I walk on. Right. And that the thing that occurs out of that perception is what we call understanding. And understanding is the key to living divinely. It's the thing that allows you to you don't have to do anything about it. You just find when you understand that 2 and 2 is 4, you don't do anything about 2 and 2 is 3 and 2 and 2 is 5. You leave them alone and you walk on with what works. Yeah. What's true. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now I will say that the IMS, if you're digging this conversation, go ahead and give us a thumbs up or a heart. And feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you get notifications when we publish new live streams or new videos to the channel. We're sponsored by the Institute of Metaphysical Science. And that is a nonprofit organization looking at the spiritual facts of being.
Yep.
All right. Oops. Okay. So on we go. Only I remembered where we were now.
Laird. If my table. That's where you are right now.
Right here. If my table, my body, my chair, tree, or horse as matter are the belief that awareness is finite. They are an error of statement or sinful sense. And that's from Practice Not Profession, page 24.
Mm-hmm. No, page 33.
Oh, 33. That's right. I didn't get that in there. That's my bad. It's page 33, not 24.
Yeah.
And as a matter or language, they are mere theory, the supposition that substance is perishable. Your authority is your demonstrated understanding. And that's in a Laird's seminar, 1965. Without proof, it's empty theory. So the challenge is to practice living science, to practice.
Yeah, what you demonstrate, nobody has to argue about.
Right.
You don't have to explain it. You don't have to defend it. It stands on its own 2 feet, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so it becomes your authority for living.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you don't demonstrate it for yourself, it stays theory and it's of very little value.
Right.
It's only when you demonstrate it for yourself that you move off that belief level into a wider, larger, grander view.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Okay. And in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy writes on page 268, line 6, belief in a material basis from which may be deduced all rationality is slowly yielding to the idea of a metaphysical basis, looking away from matter to mind as the cause of every effect.
Yep. And cause and effect is all human language stuff. Where there's one infinite perfection present, there's no cause and no effect. There's just being.
Right.
Being itself being. Looking like the world I walk through.
Yeah.
At the moment. And then that shifts all the time because always the world you walk through is your feedback on how you're living yourself.
Yeah.
Who you see yourself to be.
Right. Okay.
So when you complain about it, take a look at how you're seeing yourself.
Right.
Do I really think I'm that limited 2-legged thing that can't do this and can do that, but not the other thing? Go here, but not there.
Right. Or are you limited 2-legged thing that can be manipulated into doing things you don't want to do?
True.
Just
all
saying.
of that. Yeah.
Right. So take a look and see what's happening there. And in your book, Mind is the Athlete, page 73, you wrote, language, each individual's laboratory of self-discovery exists only as conscious thought.
Yeah. It's not really something out there to be manipulated. It's who I'm consciously being.
Right.
The thinking that is the action of the God idea.
Right.
Yep.
Very cool. And then more discussion on this. All form, the seen, heard, and felt, exist as a view or appearance without substance, has no meaning in and of itself, and disappears since it has no capacity to persist.
Yep.
So that's the right now.
It's point of view with no substance.
Right.
So I don't have to do anything to change it or fix it or organize
it's just appearing, disappearing, reappearing all the time.
Yep. Because it's feedback on who I'm being.
Yeah.
Good.
And when you know who you are, when you're clear about the one infinite being sourcing everything, then you have no resistance to appearing, disappearing, reappearing. And it's like, oh.
Of course.
When you see things that didn't seem to be there just a second before.
That's the blossoming of thing we call understanding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Practice Not Profession on page 35, Margaret Laird wrote, belief is not something that is happening. Belief is belief about the something that is happening.
Yeah.
So things happen and instantly human being has what it means. And then we believe it. And we'll tell others about it. And we'll tell them about our belief as though our belief is something that's happening.
Or with something that's true.
Right. And it's not. It's A, it's not true. And B, it's not even happening. So take a
Doesn't
look
make
at what
sense.
you're believing. Take a look at what you're believing.
Yep.
So belief is a powerful way to hold you in a certain mode to the degree that you hold on to it as if it were true and real.
Yeah, and the trap in what we're now talking about is that you see that idea and you think that you need to do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't true at all. Because when you really understand being itself, being you, and the world you walk through,
Yeah.
one thing going on, when you've got that clear, it all shifts all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a human efforting that makes things change or fluctuate.
Right.
It's that they don't exist the way you saw them. They
Right.
exist the way they are.
Right.
And your viewing is what shifts with understanding.
Yeah.
I don't have to have 2 and 2 equal 3 when I have proven and demonstrated to myself that 2 and 2 is 4.
Right.
And I also know that 2 and 2 is 4 isn't going to shift when I discover that 4 and 4 is 8.
Right. Right.
It's
Doesn't
going
have
to
to call
stand
into question everything else.
functioning.
Yeah.
And mathematics is a good example sometimes of these principles we talk about. But we actually can live that consciously by giving up our attachment to the way it looked yesterday, to the way it looked this morning, to the way it looked a half hour ago. And that's a real discipline to let go of our attachment because we think that we're secure when we're hooked with what it looks like right now.
Right.
And right now. And right now.
Right.
And that's the reason we drag out this belief that we're two-legged animals. We don't want to let it go. We've got our security tied up in it. When
Our seeming belief of security, perhaps.
There you go. It's your current view of security.
Sure.
But when you get clear about the principle of existing, it's entirely outside of and inside of and whatever. It's an all constituting principle. And you're seeing it through a glass darkly. The description was a while back. It's just freeing to find out that, oh, that's not up to Betty. Shouldn't have anything to do with that.
Right.
It's a view. It's like opening the closet door and wondering why it's dark in there. And you turn on the light and you say, it doesn't have to be dark, does it?
Right.
It didn't require a reconstituting of the closet.
Right.
It just is. Truth is. And the way we see it limits us. So we want to let go all the time.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. And Mary Baker Eddy in Science and Health on page 253, starting on line 32, says the divine demand, be ye therefore perfect, is scientific, and the human footsteps leading to perfection are indispensable.
Yeah, and I really included that reference because I love the idea that what it looks like, which Mrs. Eddy described as the human footsteps leading to perfection, that looks like the process in human living,
Yeah.
the human footsteps and so on. They're indispensable.
Right.
You don't want
they could be no other way.
That's right. This is the way it shows up. So let's go with it. Let's just see it right all the way through. Keep walking.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know, it is so easy in the human sense of things to pick on the human footstep. Well, if I hadn't done that, I'd be in better shape right now.
Right.
And that digs the hole deeper that I'm really something separate.
Right.
And that there's stuff going on that's got a power that can affect the way I live.
Yeah.
And dominate my well-being, so on and so on.
Right.
Do you know, it's just a subtle bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So if I can let those be and say, it's great that it looked that way. I don't know why it looked that way. The hell with it. What difference does it make?
Right.
What makes the difference is the recognition, oh, that's the hat reality is wearing this moment.
Right.
Margaret used to say, that's the dress God's wearing right now. Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Yeah. Very good. And then you say, in Mind is the Athlete, again on page 73, consciousness identifies itself as action, which shows up in and as shifting language.
Yep.
So this is the mind in action, being in action.
And that's operating at your potential.
Mm-hmm. Is
Yep.
being in action, seeing, being the divinity present, being
And
the
allowing it to be, whatever it is, take no issue with it. Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Because it will disappear when you leave it alone if it isn't the thing that is of the greatest good right at the moment.
Right.
You find yourself in a whole different frame of reference.
Right.
And on you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. And there's no comments by anybody or anything like that. So without anything more, thank you very much. Think about spiritual math, operating at your potential. And between now and next week, we'll be here again Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central. Operate at your potential. Challenge yourself. Live fully. Let's go for it. You got this.
Yeah. Thanks.